and welcome to Loving the Planets for the week of March 19th, 2018. I'm Armand Diaz in a dark and dreadful New York metropolitan area.
Oh, I'm so sorry it's dark there, Armand. And I'm Margaret Gray in Dublin. And we actually had the very first of our lovely spring sunny days this morning. So it's great, particularly with all the transits that are going to be going on this week. So an incredibly busy week, isn't it? But I'm so excited. The sun moves into Aries on Tuesday. So spring equinox, change, kind of a change a little bit in the energies, less of the Neptunian energies. So I think, finally we get to take some action in all areas of our life, including relationships.
Well, we've been through this incredibly Piscean, Neptunian time. Nothing wrong with Pisces, nothing wrong with Neptune, but, we've been through this time where it's been very watery. And, now that the sun is joining Mercury and Venus and Uranus, I suppose, in Aries, we should be drying out a little bit. It is more of like the green light, able to go through it, especially after last week. So I think that is good. Just want to remind everyone that, of course, we do respect the fact that in the southern hemisphere, it's actually the fall equinox, not the spring equinox. But it's still Aries instead of Pisces, so...
Yeah, I think it's kind of like that spring in our step. So now the same day, we've also got the Mercury Venus conjunction in Aries. So just to say to everybody, just be a little careful what comes out of your mouth, especially to loved ones, because that Mercury Venus could be a little over enthusiastic, maybe, shall we say, and might then totally forget what they said 10 minutes later.
Or a little prickly. It's one of those that every so often we give this piece of advice: talk in person rather than text, because
Yes.
It's so easy to just spit anything out on it. It's easy to even actually say something that you mean in fun, or something that you mean one way and it's taken a different way. And with Mercury stationing to retrograde, well, now we got an issue. So things are likely to be misunderstood.
Yes, and it means that Mercury is going to be in the sign of Aries for 10 weeks, which is quite a long time. So we're going to have a lot of time to get used to that. Now, Mercury retrograde in fire signs, I find can be a little challenging because it naturally wants to move forward and be quite fast, and it thinks quite quickly. But when it goes retrograde, it's easy to stumble on words, to really get confused. So even more so what you said, Armand, about, speaking in person, to notice the nuances, because it makes a big difference. If you're writing something, maybe write an email that you can check and double check and not put somebody's name in it before sending it, rather than text that can be just a word here and there and can be really misunderstood.
Yeah, so communication, we've got to be careful for a while here. This is going to be a thing, Mercury retrograde in Aries, and so all week long and for the next 3 weeks till April 15th, and then after it gets out of its shadow, 3 weeks after that. So just be careful just be careful when you communicate for the foreseeable future.
Totally. And also, just to say with that, just be careful if you're signing contracts, like if you're getting married or buying a house together or buying something, particularly for couples or with groups of friends, whatever, just again, review, revise, all those usual things that we always say with Mercury retrograde, but even more so with fire signs. It's easy to kind of be impulsive.
Yeah, it is easy to be impulsive, and that's just something to kind of keep in mind. Yeah, you talk about impulsivity. Let's look at Venus in Aries squared to Pluto in Capricorn. This could be a real challenge on Friday. Well, I would say Thursday, Friday. You'd be feeling this for quite a bit at the end of the week, and it just seems to me like Venus in Aries is like, I or we want to do our thing, and Pluto in Capricorn is saying no.
I think, whenever Venus and Pluto come together in the sky, I think there's always that issue of, is it going to be passion or is it going to be a power struggle in relationships? Or is there going to be also obsession around, and I think particularly with the Aries Capricorn combination, because, Venus in Aries is impulsive, wants everything now, and is very passionate by nature. And then it squares Pluto in Capricorn that's like, Is it going to be that passion, or, are we going to kind of lock horns here? So I would say really to go very gently with yourself and with each other during that time. And, to certainly try and express it through passion, but to be very aware that if power struggles come up, it is really not the day to try to resolve them.
Well, especially with Mercury retrograde, we could have a power struggle, and we just can't come to any sort of agreement about. The other thing is, we might have a power struggle. We might get into some sort of a fight about the wrong information. We just misunderstood each other. We saw something the wrong way. So, if it's and anger is a passion. let's go more for sex. But it is certainly likely to be a volatile end of the week.
Gosh, we're on the same page for once, Armand. We're actually agreeing. My goodness, we don't have different viewpoints on this. That's a biggie. Okay, on Saturday, the Sun in Aries squares Mars in Capricorn. So again, there's still a little bit of that potential volatility around. Again, passion would be best. Have fun, have sex, do whatever feels good, but really just to be aware of those, just those issues that might come up out of nowhere. Whenever we're talking about Aries, things can suddenly appear that you didn't even expect. And to keep in mind that Uranus is still in Aries, the last degrees of Aries, getting ready to leave Aries. So we've still got a general sense of volatility around the energy of Aries.
Yeah, and Chiron is still at the end of Pisces, and so as much as we're talking about have we jumped out of the big, emotional drainage area, the truth of the matter is, there's still mud on our shoes at the very least, and I think that some of us are going to still be mucking around in it for a bit longer.
That's a great way to put it, Armand. I think, some of the blogs that I wrote last week about, I think this Chiron in Pisces has brought up a lot of grief, and people react differently to grief. Some people go on the attack, some people just close in. So to notice with each other and to try and be a little sensitive around the people around you, how they're responding, because it's not likely to be anything about you. It really could be just their own response to grief, which could be very old grief. I mean, when anything is in the last degrees of the sign, it's its last chance to really bring things to the surface. And with Chiron, there's also that existential loneliness and aloneness. So there's a lot going on multiple levels.
And it's the last degree of Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac. So it is in fact this sort of, it is this existential grief. And sometimes we just sort of latch it onto something that we can, understand a little bit better. But sometimes it's more primal. Well, on that happy note.
I was going to say quickly before we go, let's leave people on a happy note. Venus is quincunx Jupiter at the weekend as well. Well, it's kind of like a little bit more of a lift off. Maybe Jupiter can expand. I know it's Jupiter in Scorpio, but again, keep the word passion in mind. Let's just end on that note. All right, Armand. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Advice for the week. Don't talk about anything. Have a lot of sex.
Yes, absolutely. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.